All right, welcome. Happy Wednesday Wellness. Dr. Mary Starr, the Total Wellness Doc, and I am back to talk to you about something that kind of the journey that I'm going through, and to share with you something that really could help you. How many of you know, or maybe you eat something, or you feel at least a couple times a week you get bloated in your stomach, like you eat something and just like feel like you're pregnant? How many of you eat something and you're sensitive to it? You burp it up, you have gas, things like that. How many of you struggle with allergies, right? You think it's just from the pollen and things like that, but you really struggle with allergies. Anybody? Okay. How many of you have noticed like more fatigue, maybe even a little depression? Anybody? Okay. How many of you have struggled with weight gain? Like you feel like you just can't take the pounds off. All right. Well, I'm coming to share some things with you because these are some topics that not only am I dealing with, but clients that I work with as well. So we're going to talk about some of the root causes of that, and even some more root causes. Root causes. What do I mean by root causes, right? Particularly, let me just check and make sure we are live. Awesome. Say hello in the chat because I'm not seeing that if you're there. Okay, so what do I mean by root causes? Root causes. So a root cause in particular might be the actual problem, right? So if I have an allergy and I take an antihistamine, is that actually getting rid of the problem, right? No, not necessarily, right? It's not getting rid of the problem. Why is my body reacting so much? And I know a lot of people say, well, it's because of, the cedar trees and things like that. And yes, absolutely, your body may be more sensitive to certain things, but particularly as we age, and now we're seeing it in even younger and younger, and even like little ones. My girlfriend's son has been recently challenged with some of these things that I'll share with you in a second. But we're just seeing younger and younger that more and more people are having allergies. They're having skin problems. They're having, what else? Yvonne, what else are you seeing? Like people struggling with insomnia, people not being able to lose weight, everything they try. What is going on? And I want to talk to you about something that I learned about almost probably, I would say 18 to 20 years ago by a pretty famous naturopathic, I don't know if she's a doctor or whatever, nutritionist, doctor, but Dr. Brenda Watson was her name. And she kind of gave this concept along with one of my mentors, Gary Young, that the hub of health begins in the colon. Why does the hub of health begin in the colon? What do we mean by that? What does that even what are we talking about? Well, the hub of health, the colon is kind of like the dumping ground. And I've done some great videos about the colon, why it's so important. But one thing that we have to realize is the colon, and I was gonna kind of bring my little whiteboard. Where is my whiteboard? Oh, it's down there. But if you think about the colon, right, it's the absorption, and how it absorbs is it has all these like little finger-like villi, I believe we call them, right? So these little finger-like villi, and it's covered with a kind of a protectant, right? It's just covered with this wonderful mucousy protectant that allows the food to go in and digest and pull out the nutrients, right? It's covered with this kind of mucousy nutrient. But what happens with a condition called leaky gut is that film goes away, right? And then there's now all these things that can kind of come in. So say I'm eating just a lot of protein or eggs all the time, right? I'm eating eggs all the time. So now it kind of comes in, and we call that a leaky gut, where that egg protein can kind of filter through and get into even our blood system, and the body recognizes and said, ooh, alarm, alarm. That is a bad thing, and I am going to produce a response to that, right? An inflammatory response, an immune response. And this concept of leaky gut has been linked to so many conditions, many autoimmune conditions, things like IBS and Crohn's and all of that. Well, you're saying, Dr. Mary, well, what does that mean to me? Well, food sensitivities, right? Food sensitivities. People who are sensitive to certain foods, especially those of you who eat the same thing day in, day out, if your good mucosal, microfilm, which is full of good bacteria and all this good stuff, is gone, right? You just had a round of antibiotics. You had, what gets rid of it? You had antibiotics being a big one. They say it could take up to 2 years. 2 years to replace all that good mucosal biofilm again, right? 2 years. So what else can destroy your good protector, right? The gut's protector. Well, this is a bread that's pretty famous here where I live, and someone in my house really likes it. It's a white bread, right? We were gone, I think, a couple of weeks, or this bread had gotten in the back and it had been open and stuff. It had never even molded. Why? Right? All the preservatives in it, one thing, but something that's very popular in breads like this, and a lot of the grains that we eat, these flour tortillas and things like that, is that they have glyphosates, right? Pesticide called glyphosate, and glyphosates can go and just destroy that mucosal good lining. So eating lots of white breads and things like that, these treated, basically crap, right? Having a lot of glyphosates or treated foods, and people like, oh, I don't need organic food or things like that. Well, we might, we really might need to be using those. So let's talk again about underlying causes of a leaky gut. Okay, so poor diet, right? We talked about that. Things with added sugar. If you're having a lot of grain type things that aren't sprouted or aren't more fibrous for you, that's a big thing. You're eating a lot of processed foods and conventional dairy. What do I mean about conventional dairy? A lot of dairy is treated with a whole bunch of crap, and that's what I tell a lot of people. If you're having allergies, you're having that hacking, the runny nose, all of those kind of things, itchy eyes, allergies, get rid of the dairy. Just especially milk, right? Conventional milk. Well, what's better? Well, I don't want to get in trouble, but I'll tell you, like, raw milk is the best, but you're rarely probably going to find that for human consumption. That's your choice. So poor diet, chronic stress. How many of you have had chronic stress? Maybe you've had a family member that you've had to take care of for extended periods of time. Maybe you've gone through a divorce. Maybe you had to move. This kind of chronic stress can really deplete, our body can deplete minerals and vitamins, but also that good lining in our gut. Toxic overload. I already talked to you about antibiotics, but I also want to talk to you about water. Why we shouldn't be drinking tap water. And I always get reminded of this again. In my house, we have 3 filters. So we have the regular, filter that you put in the fridge. We have what's called a Berkey filter, which I highly recommend because it gets out a lot of the bad stuff out of your water. It's called a Berkey filter. Highly recommend it. I mean, even like bacteria and things like that. Berkey filter, very good investment. And then we have, what is it called? I want to call it an Aquasana, but it's a giant filter that, can take care of all the fluoride and chlorine, because the fluoride and chlorine are what really starts to deplete your gut. So, and the reason I tell you this is that particularly I'm on a health journey right now, and like our coach wants us drinking a lot of water, like more than, twice our body weight, right? Which is the average, which most people should be drinking. She wants to drink a lot of water. Well, if someone's going to drink chlorinated water, yes, it's better than nothing, but that's not good. You know, it's just not good for your body. So get some kind of filter to at least get the chlorine and the fluoride out of your water. But that's really important. Having a bacterial imbalance, and I've had Dr. Sherry on where she's gone over some of the gut analysis that she's done, the testing and different things like that, where we can see, hey, this bacteria is too high and this bacteria is low, and you have too much yeast. So that kind of imbalance of bacteria and fungus and all that can cause a real problem too, to lead to leaky gut. And leaky gut, when those proteins, right, are no longer protected and they can go right through, your body's going to start an inflammatory response, okay? So what are symptoms of leaky gut? Some of the most prominent signs that you may have leaky gut include ulcers, diarrhea, kind of like say 3 people go on vacation and person number 1 is fine, person number 2 is fine, person number 3, they all ate the same, they all drank the same, but person number 3 ends up getting, you know, Montezuma's revenge or something. That may be because that person has a lot of leaky gut and their body couldn't handle what was going on with the bacterias or the new fungus and stuff like that they were exposed to. But person number 1, number 2 had a good microbiofilm in their gut lining, and they could deal with it. Does that make sense? Right? Does that make sense? Something called SIBO, which Dr. Sherry is more of an expert. Allergies, respiratory infections, chronic inflammatory conditions like arthritis, thyroid disease, thyroid disorder. How many of you know someone with a thyroid problem, right? Could it be the hub of health, the colon, that is really struggling? Obesity-related metabolic diseases like a fatty liver, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune disease like lupus, MS, type 1 diabetes, Parkinson, type 1, that's interesting, I didn't know that. Hashimoto's, Parkinson's, chronic fatigue syndrome. And I think Dr. Sherry talked to us a little bit about the gut and Parkinson's too. Like there's some really good new research about, that connection. Like when you're depleted with a certain, bacteria, that you're likely to get Parkinson's so much more or whatever. And a propensity for weight gain and obesity. So, well, what does that mean to you? The number one thing the advice that I got from my doctor, right? Because I have a skin issue. Maybe someday I'll show pictures of it. That's something I've dealt with a long, long time. I am right at this moment in the obese category, and a lot of you is like, oh, you look great, and that. Well, I hide it well. I'm pretty close to just overweight, but I'll probably be there in a few days. So this is something I've struggled with. I was the kid who constantly had antibiotics as a kid, constantly sinus infections all the time. How many of you struggle with sinus infections? Maybe still do, okay? The problem isn't that you need something to dry it up. The problem is that you need to focus on the gut and rehabilitate the gut, which might take years. You know what, too, in this study, too, I just want to share with you, because I know one of you might be interested in this. Celiac disease, SIBO, esophageal and colorectal cancer, too, were also part of, prominent signs that you may have a leaky gut. And this came from Dr. Axe, but a lot of colleagues agree with him as well, too. So, why did I come on here to share this with you? Well, first up is that one of the things that I'm noticing on my health journey right now is that when I have dairy, so even that I've showed some of you my delicious yogurt that I make in my Instapot, I love it, and I used, organic milk and coconut condensed milk and stuff like that, and it's amazing, it tastes great, but my body just feels like bloated and just not good, and the scale responds to it. So when you eat something, so for you, when you eat something and you notice that bloating, maybe for me too, I'll get an itchy head when I eat peanut butter or if I were to eat like this type of bread and stuff. Now, I have noticed since I've been healing my gut that I can kind of get away with some of those things a little bit more, but if I do it too many days in a row, then I get like this itchy head. The rash will get better when I get away from gluten type products. So it's gluten and dairy. So those are the two number one things that won't let your gut heal. So Dr. Sherry, her advice to me too is like, you got to go off of it for a period of time. Doesn't mean you have to leave it forever, but until you can heal your gut, this leaky gut, those two things are pretty harmful for the body. Now, you've heard a lot of people be like gone over to doing gluten-free, and you know, one of my mentors like, oh, that's just a joke. No, it's not. It's because we've inundated and ruined our guts, that those things are just really cause us to really react. You know, if you have skin problems, you know, if you have itchies, eczema, allergies, anything like that, I suggest you go off of those things. Gluten and dairy. And you're like, oh, I can't do it. Well, that's your choice. It's taken me a lot of years to follow directions. But I feel better. I'm releasing weight. But when I get back into those things, not so much. Not so much. So you try it. You see. So start with something, and I'll link if we can find it. I did a video on food allergy testing. I did some food allergy testing a couple years ago. I think I'm going to do that again soon. So I could see what foods I was sensitive to. Now, that is a moment in time, and that's a reflection of my gut at that moment in time. And at that time, I was having a lot of coconut oil and different things. And I had just tried coffee, and I never drink coffee, and I tried this was supposed to be a super healthy coffee. I just tried it, and that made me pretty sick. And lo and behold, coffee was like my top inflammatory. Clams were on there, and you know, some other things. So I want to do it again and see where is my food allergies. So food sensitivities, I should say food sensitivities, because it doesn't mean that you can't have it forever, but it means you've got to kind of go back to basics and learn to heal the gut. And we'll do videos on healing the gut and later things. But I just want to encourage you, this is the path that I'm taking right now. And it may be something that you want to try. Going more gluten-free. And actually, when you do the research and stuff too, because especially for kids with autism and things like that, kids with ADHD, I've been studying a lot of that. You can't just like go off of it some of the time. You actually have to go off of it for like a period of 6 weeks. And if they get one little bit, you got to like start over on day one again. One little bit, you got to start over on day one again. That's how intense this type of healing and restoring the body and stuff like that is too. And I will tell you too, from parents that I've talked with autistic kids and kids with severe ADHD, that they take them off all grains. They're just on fruit and proteins, clean, very, very, very clean eating. And these kids, like one, he was like, I think 11, 12 years old. And he told his mom, even like rice, right? Even like rice. He goes, Mom, when I get on that, I just don't feel good. I can't concentrate. I feel hyper. I feel like, for a kid to articulate how food makes him feel, that is phenomenal. And I remember that conversation very, very well. And I think God planted that in my life because I would be dealing with that down the road. But anyway, my focus right now is me. And I'm learning about my health. I love my family, and we're doing some great things with my son right now too. But we have to have a filled cup before we can help so many others, right? Mamas, do you agree? Grandmamas? You know, if your cup isn't full, if you haven't taken care of yourself and you're still trying to take care of everyone else, like, you know, that's going to be a hard thing. A lot of people say, well, why don't you practice anymore? Why don't you do this? It's like, it's my time. I have to take care of me, because for all those years, you know, helping others, taking others, but I wasn't taking my own advice, right? And learning these things and actually following through, having the discipline to follow through with some of these great advice. Okay, I've gone off on a tangent. You know, what is your next step? If you're someone who struggles with allergies or insomnia, bloating, you know, all of those things, it could be a food sensitivity, but it could be leaky gut, right? They kind of go hand in hand. So why not? Why not take the next step to eliminate gluten and dairy for just a season, right? Just a season. Could you do 6 weeks? Could you do 6 weeks straight? Think about it. Let me know. I'm here to help you. Make sure you subscribe and click the notification button in our YouTube channel. Mary Starr, the Total Wellness Doc. We'd love to have you let us know your feedback on what's working for you or what you have going on, and could it be associated with a leaky gut. All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.